super excited to have you here. Thank you so much. You've got lots of fun things in store. So go ahead and jump right in.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you everyone for joining. I am Keirsten Greggs, the Trap Recruiter, bringing trust, relationship building, accountability, and a proactive approach back into the recruitment life cycle by bridging the gap between employers and job seekers who are from historically excluded and marginalized communities. As Amy alluded to, today we're going to be examining the what's, whys, and hows of spamming and ghosting from both the recruiter and candidate perspectives. And we'll discuss ways we can improve our communication styles to foster better candidate and recruiter experiences. Now, you may be asking yourself, is this going to be some cheesy Barbie movie theme presentation led by a Gen X recruiter born in the 1900s who is trying to reconnect their childhood memories to important issues facing the TA organization? The answer is no, but also yes. Perhaps, maybe we will see. Our key topics today, I'm not going to minimize the role and influence of recruiters or job seekers, but there are some themes from the movie, hopefully some of you have seen it, that we will explore. For those who have seen it, when all's right in Barbie land and Barbies are in full control, they're pretty much oblivious to anything that is going on in the minds of the Kens. And basically the Kens are at the mercy of all of the Barbies. When the Kens are in full control, for that brief amount of time, the Barbies, they are at the mercy of the Kens. And it isn't until the end of the movie where the Barbies and the Kens decide to come together, cooperate, and collaborate that actual rightness is restored. So goes the current job market, given that a lot of recruiters find themselves as both candidate and recruiter at this time. We're even more attuned to how we've always been on the giving and receiving ends of both spamming and ghosting. So we'll start with the what, the why, and the effects of spamming and how we can improve candidate experiences. Then we'll move on to the what's, the whys, and the effects of ghosting and how we can foster better relationships. Before we move into spamming, I did want to take a quick poll. So Amy, if you can bring the poll question up, I just want to see where everyone is aligned. So are you Team Barbie, Team Ken, Team Alan, or Team Weird Barbie? Everybody can see my screen, so I'm not allowed to vote. We have any answers yet? Let's see. Uh-oh.
Yeah, they're ticking in.
They're ticking in. Okay. Where are most people landing right now?
Team Barbie, Team Weird Barbie leading the pack at about 40%.
Okay.
Responses. I'll share our results. Here we go.
Nice. So most people are, so Team Barbie and Team Weird Barbie are neck and neck, which is kind of the same thing. So most people are Team Barbie. I kind of cheat. Is that cheating? Maybe a little bit.
Although we've got a couple people in the chat saying Team Allen. We'll give
Team Allen
a couple more points there.
Okay. So I'm going to, full disclosure, I'm horrible at slides. So I can't go backwards, but I put my slides in the wrong order. So the quote said, when all is right, Barbie has a great day every day, but Ken only has a great day if Barbie looks at him. So when we're thinking about spamming, this is an example of that first point I made. Recruiters sometimes like to believe that they are the center of the universe and that candidates are at our mercy, just waiting for us to pay them some attention. As the slide explains, spamming is unsolicited job-related messages such as emails, text messages, or internet postings sent to a large number of recipients or posted in a large number of places. There is a difference between job seeker or candidate spamming and recruiter spamming, though, so we're going to go through some of those right now. And there's a little quote here of what it feels like when a candidate is spamming you and they don't really know what it is that you do as a recruiter or what kind of roles you're recruiting for. So they're kind of like, do you want to be my bride wife or my long-term, long-distance, low-commitment, casual girlfriend? Basically, whatever you got, I'll take it. So candidate spamming refers to submitting a resume to multiple job postings with a little attention paid to the job fit, submitting to submitting to so many roles that they forget that they even applied. Has anyone ever had that happen? You guys can just, hit a like in the chat or put a, yep, thumbs up. I see them coming up. When you'll reach out to a job seeker and they're like, what job are you calling me about? Excuse me, job seeker, but you reached out to me first. I'm returning your call, or I'm returning your email. I'm returning your text. I'm returning your expression of interest. And a lot of times they don't even remember. And some of that is because, in some instances, job seekers just don't track what they're doing, and they get so excited perhaps about it, and maybe we just have to have a little bit more empathy for that. They're contacting recruiters using various methods. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I know when I was a full life cycle recruiter in a large global company, I would get people who would call my desk phone. Yes, that did exist. Like I said, I was born in the 1900s, so I still use the desk phone. Call my desk phone, call my cell phone, text me, email my friends who were recruiters who were sitting next to me, email the hiring manager, any email and call any numbers that they could find for the company I work for, call the receptionist just to get in touch with me. And that does become quite annoying because a lot of the times they didn't even give me an opportunity to reply to their first inquiry before they reached out in every other way. And then, like I mentioned, contacting the hiring managers, contacting other recruiters in the organization, any mutual connections we have on LinkedIn. And then this is all in an effort to get a response from me the first time, not necessarily get some feedback. And then recruiter spamming happens too. Like, we got to be honest. Sometimes we're moving really quickly and we're like, okay, we're throwing out a bunch of copied and pasted messages, or we're sending bulk emails and we forget to edit some of our messaging, and it may have the name of the previous person, or it may still say dear and have the brackets around it because we forgot to do something. Has that ever happened to anybody besides me, or am I the only one? I made that mistake. Yes, thank you. One person knows what I'm feeling about. So some recruiter spamming, also my favorite, focusing on that one or two hiring manager must-have candidates. And they may or may not even be the best fit for the role as it was explained to us. And we haven't done one bit of sourcing just yet, but the hiring manager is intent on us getting to this person by any means necessary, and will worry us to death until we worry the job seeker to death. Those automated messages getting us every time, sending one that's outdated or inapplicable to the role that we're even looking for. Some more bad behavior that we do, or some sketchy behavior, I'll say, is adding job seekers to talent communities just for the purpose of sending them marketing materials because we don't actually have any roles available, but we want to keep them warm and keep them in our pipeline. So we're spamming them with a bunch of newsletters every day, a bunch of stuff that they didn't even sign up for. Like we feel like, oh, we got your email address, we can do whatever we want. And then inviting them to apply for roles for the sole purpose of just attracting, directing traffic to our websites or to get our site visits increased. I know no one's ever done that, but I've heard tales of it. So yeah, we got to think about that from our perspective. Sometimes we're approaching recruiters and you're approaching candidates and, you know, we don't even know what their job is, or we don't even know what they're looking for or what they're about. Because they're like, yeah, actually my job's beach. My job, it's just beach. You know, like I'm not a software engineer. My job's beach. All right. Let's pause again for another poll question. How likely are you to tag a candidate who has spammed your ATS, do not hire, very likely, somewhat unlikely? Uh-oh, my questions are out of order.
Did we get the wrong one going?
Yeah, I need the spamming one. I apologize. Huh?
Let me go back and launch our other one here.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so how likely are you to tag a candidate who has spammed your ATS do not hire? Very likely, somewhat unlikely, not at all likely.
Lots of responses rolling in.
Okay.
Keep them coming, guys. Give it another second. All right, let's take a look at what we've got.
Oh, wow. So kind of in the middle, 60% of the people are like, yeah, maybe. It depends. I like that. I'm not opposed to that. Thank you all for chiming in on that one. So what's the reason behind the spamming? Yes, almost like reverse here. Recruiter spam, we have a lot of candidates to get through. We have tight deadlines. We're trying to meet quantitative instead of qualitative metrics, meaning we may work for a third-party agency, or we may even work for a corporate conglomerate who follows some of the, staffing agency metrics, and they're like, you have to make this many calls today, you have to do this much outreach, you have to get this many interviews scheduled, you have to do this much. Like, I know, again, I started recruiting in the 2000 January of 2000. So I know that there are still people who operate that way, who check a box and say, again, counting how many. We don't understand the role. We have an inefficient process. And let's just be honest. Sometimes that purple squirrel resume is 5 years old. They haven't updated it. and or they've recently taken a job and haven't taken their resumes off of all of the websites that we are out here sourcing on, including using great tools like Hire Easy. And, those resumes aren't up to date. So we don't know. And we're reaching out, hoping to get a response. And it's no longer relevant. Candidates are spamming. It's not always as cut and dry as it's just desperation, but at the end of the day, people do need a job. They feel like the more they submit, the better their chances are of getting in contact with you. And some of that comes from a lot of the information that they get online about how best to work with recruiters and how to get a recruiter's attention. They'd say, be eager and, make as many reach outs as you can. So a lot of times folks are just following the advice of someone else And it's not always the way that we want to be engaged individually, but there are some people who don't mind that sense of increased eagerness, we'll call it. You know, every job seeker is not as informed as we'd like them to be, and they just don't have a clear job search plan. They think it shows that, you know, they're so interested in the role and that they have a lot to offer. And then same thing with resumes not being up to date. We're guilty of this too. A lot of times we're not pulling our jobs down quick enough, or we're leaving jobs up for months, sometimes for years. I know we've all seen roles that have been open for years, like literally years. And some of that is just because we think we're, you know, filling our pipeline with additional candidates, but it sends the wrong message, because especially an eager job seeker, they're thinking that that role is open because you're actually ready to hire someone. The effects of spamming. There are some issues going on right now that we do need to discuss. 38% of job seekers report encountering job posting scams, and 32% of recent job seekers feel like they were tricked into applying and or interviewing for a fake job. There was a report on CNBC a few months ago that reported that Americans lost $68 million to job scams. You know, this was the result of fake job postings, interviews that were not conducted in person or through a secure video line. They went through a teleconferencing app instead, using an email address instead of a phone number, requiring that employees or prospective employees purchase their own startup equipment. I posted a job posting the other week, and in my haste, I almost shared it on LinkedIn, because I have been sharing a lot of open jobs, you know, across recruiting and HR, as well as, you know, the ones that aren't necessarily in our wheelhouse, because I know so many people are looking for their next role. And something told me, don't push just yet. And thankfully I read it, because it was asking for that the person be a HR coordinator, but you had to use your own equipment. You had to use your own laptop, and you had to come into the office and plug into someone else's system with your personal laptop and have access to other people's personal information. So that was a red flag for me, and told me that that was a scam. But there are a lot of job scams going on right now, and folks making fake profiles on LinkedIn. I've encountered many of those, both job seeker and employer fake job postings. There are also job postings that appear on job boards, but not on the company's websites. And because job seekers are getting spam from a lot of jobs, a lot of them are feeling like things aren't real. So we have to do a better job of making sure that our messaging is not mistaken for a fake job. How do we fix it? Focus on qualitative metrics. What are those things that show the value of the TA organization? Not how many calls did you make today? Not how many emails did you send today? We have to streamline our processes. And I know some of this is out of our immediate control, but there are things that we can do as individual contributors even that help us to navigate our broader processes in a more efficient and a more effective way. We have to ensure that our job postings are reflective of the work that will be done. How do we do that? You know, some of us aren't having these strategy meetings with our hiring managers anymore. Some of us are not getting a full understanding of the roles that we're looking for. So we're just throwing out, you know, casting a wide net and seeing what comes back in. Again, we're all moving quickly. We're all on our devices. multiple ones at a time sometimes. And we might be contacting folks through our personal assets, but to ensure that we're not giving job seekers that icky feeling, because like I said, the job scams are out there. Make sure you're contacting through your company email domains and using your company's teleconference applications. And then lastly, again, when you're moving quickly and you're just throwing a job up on Indeed separately from your ATS, make sure your job board profiles fit the profile of the roles. Any questions before I move forward, or any comments? I'm not following the chat, so I can't see them.
We've got some comments in the chat. No
Okay.
questions, I don't think, but definitely resonating.
How am I on time?
You're good. You're good. We've got about 10 minutes left.
Oh, okay. Let's go. Uh-oh. Oh. So now that we've uncovered spamming, we can all rest easy. Good night, Barbies. Definitely not thinking about death anymore. Let's move to ghosting, the practice of ending a professional relationship by suddenly and without explanation, withdrawing all communication to avoid discomfort and or conflict. Those are the important words again: avoiding discomfort and avoiding conflict. A lot of the things that people say are ghosting are not necessarily ghosting. They are actually, you've never contacted a person, you've never been in contact, you've never been or made contact with a person. And a lot of people are calling that ghosting. When they apply for your job and they don't hear back, they're saying they got ghosted by the company. That's not what that is. Ghosting happens, again, once you have established the type of relationship. Why are candidates ghosting us? And as you can see, one of my favorite quotes from the movie, to be honest, when I found out about the patriarchy wasn't about horses, I lost interest. And that's pretty much what candidates, the sentiment that I get from candidates and why they quote unquote ghosted ghosted a recruiter that they had been working with or had been in contact with. Our recruiting process is too long. The position isn't what's advertised. They caught a bad vibe during the process, meaning, something was said during the interview. Maybe we showed up late or we kept rescheduling their phone screens. Maybe we kept passing them along to other people. Maybe our communication wasn't timely. Honestly, they've been ghosted before and they think they see the signs of it. So they're going to leave they're going to ghost us before we can ghost them. The salary and benefits don't meet their expectations. They took another job or they took a counteroffer from their current company. They don't know the best way to express disinterest. And they're just really nice people and don't know what to say to you. So they don't say anything. Again, the recruiter communications aren't meeting the set expectations, the expectations that we set for them when we made our initial contact, when we had our phone screen and when we told them how things would go. But then when something changed or there was a fork in the road, we didn't communicate that to them. And then, this is the one that I think we don't think about a lot of times until we're in that position. They procrastinated and they really don't know how to re-engage. Why are recruiters ghosting? Some things have been happening that might be related: cold shower, falling off my roof, and my heels are on the ground. Sometimes we're having that bad day too. Sometimes we're out of sync. Sometimes we're out of whack. A lot of that times is driven by that hiring manager who we haven't received feedback from. A position is on hold, but we want to keep the job seeker in the pipeline because we're holding out hope that the job reopens. We're checking a box to remain compliant. Again, we don't have all of the control in what goes on in our organizations. And sometimes You know, they already know who they want to hire before they even open a job, but we have to post it online because compliance says that this job has to be open for a certain number of days, or we have to make efforts to go outside of the organization, or we have to make efforts to post on certain job boards and things like that. We made an offer that we know is crap. We don't know if it's going to be accepted, and we're holding out for our B's and C's. Yeah, I said it that bluntly because that's truly what it is. And then we also procrastinate. We get busy too. You know, we sometimes our timeline slips. We let our communication slip, and we don't know how to re-engage. Pause again for a poll question. Here's the one that was up before. At what stage in the recruitment process are you most likely to be ghosted by a candidate, or have you been most likely to be ghosted by a candidate?
All right, lots of results taken in here.
Okay.
Give it another few seconds.
Poor Barbie.
All right, let's take a look.
Whoa. Okay. So most of us, it's at the pre-screen. Okay. So before we're all the way down the road, I'm feeling that. I'm liking that. Let's see what others have said. So this is a poll that Hire Easy did, 2 different surveys, and they came up with 57% of sometimes getting ghosted during the screening process. So that mirrors what everyone else responded. What are the effects of ghosting? I did some research on some additional stats. 95% of recruiters have been ghosted by a candidate after the first interview. 84% of job seekers have ghosted employers in the last 18 months. And 39% of employers say candidate ghosting has increased over the last 2 years. And that's 21, 22. But as we know, no one rests until this dial is back in the box. Okay. More effects of ghosting. 62% of job seekers have a negative attitude about companies who ghost them. 63% of job seekers will avoid applying in the future to companies that have ghosted them. And this is from a 2022 LinkedIn study. The problem is that when we as recruiters ghost candidates, we're decreasing our overall talent pool. We're increasing the marginalization of historically excluded candidates. We risk losing potential customers depending on what line of business we're in. If we sell a product, or we work for a grocery store or a manufacturing company, FedEx, UPS, whatever the case may be, Amazon, you know, we risk losing a customer because they are like, I don't want to buy or patronize a company who ghosted me. And, you know, at the end of the day, it just damages our employer brand. And as we know, recruiters are held accountable for just about everything. So that's why I have this quote from the very, very famous, much longer speech. It's too hard, it's too contradictory, and nobody gives you a medal or says thank you. And it turns out, in fact, that not only are you doing everything wrong, but also everything is your fault. How do we fix ghosting? There are a lot of ways, and even more. So you guys can throw some in the chat if you have some additional ones. We got to streamline and measure the effectiveness of our processes to avoid unnecessary delays. Make sure everyone on the interview team and the hiring team is needed and that they're informed. Communicate clearly throughout the entire recruiting process. Provide timely feedback at each stage of the recruitment life cycle. Have transparency and accuracy in your job postings. Also, set reasonable expectation and communicate any changes. And the most important one, close the loop. Don't leave folks out there so that you have to figure out how to re-engage. But it's Barbie and Ken. There's no just Ken. What do I mean by that? I mean that for this to work, for the hiring to work, for the recruitment process to work most effectively, Barbies and Kens, job seekers and candidates alike, have to come together and collaborate, cooperate, take into account that each of us has our own nuances. We're going through our own challenges and things like that. And without each other, the other doesn't exist. Any questions? I think I might have like 5 minutes.
Yeah, Keirsten, there's a couple that we can kind of bring up here. And I think one of them was brought up a little bit earlier in the presentation, but wanting to kind of dive into like how companies can combat fake applications, right? Like especially those submitted by bots, kind of spamming career sites. Do you have any tips or tricks around that?
Yeah, so one thing that I do inside of an ATS, and I know that this has happened more so when I'm working in like global companies or companies that are highly coveted, that posting and praying isn't necessarily a thing, because as soon as you post, people are going to apply. I have always looked at it within our ATS, and most of us have ATSs that have this capability. We can see the other roles that folks have applied to and when they've applied. So paying attention to that matters. Also, using, like when we use tools like LinkedIn, looking at when was the last time they actually engaged on that platform or had any type of activity that tells you things. If you're feeling kind of weird about stuff, like the email address doesn't match the name, the phone number is kind of weird, their career progression looks off, like you can tell when things aren't necessarily right. And, I've even gone so far as doing like reverse image lookups because again, this is not a biased statement. This is just a real statement. Sometimes the name doesn't fit the picture. No, like if I said my name was Jack Smith and there's a picture of me and it says Jack Smith, you're like, oh, and I'm from Berlin, Germany. And like you're not really you're gonna have a question, and it's not necessarily based in the sense that you're going to discriminate against me, but you're going to have some questions. It may lead to something else. And then there are, especially in the technical fields, there are people who send resumes from their contractors. But again, when you see that it's the same email address or the same phone number or the same instructions, like that's when you can point to it's either not a person or it's spam. And then do what we said we are somewhat likely as well as somewhat unlikely to do, and mark them DNH or do not contact or whatever your disposition is in your system.
Yeah, doing that extra due diligence, making sure the details line up. Exactly. Yeah. So one more question that I think we can surface here is kind of a scenario-based question, I guess I'll say. So let's say, right, you've got candidates who've expressed interest in a job, you've scheduled a pre-screen, they've acknowledged that appointment and confirmed, they no call, no show, right? You follow up, see if they'd like to reschedule, they don't respond. And then they finally get back to you and they're like, hey, I'm still interested. Can we schedule some time? What are your thoughts on that? How would you approach?
So that has happened, and I've really kind of tailored that, because I know like a lot of us do this. We stack up, especially our phone screens. Like we stack them up. You know, we may leave a little bit. We may leave 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on how busy we are. Not much, but we leave enough time to get off, take a sip of water, or take a bathroom break, come back, and then jump on the next call. So I have an email, like I have an email set up where I'm like, I hope everything's okay. Please let me know when we can reschedule this call. And I don't wait. I try not to wait, depending on how busy I am. I try not to wait more than 5 or 10 minutes. But most of the time, candidates are just as respectful of my time as I am of theirs. So they will send me an email like, I can't get online. I can't figure this out. So I'll figure out an easier way for me to contact them. Like instead of them, or they can't use certain programs that might be blocked at their organization and they're at work. So it's not like I'm going to make them get up and go someplace else to talk to me, So I will, I'll kind of adjust that. But the same way that we ghost people, because maybe we're just not good people that day, I'm not going to do that. Like, I call it the hey big head, when you haven't heard from someone in a year and then they're like your best friend's like, hey girl, remember that job you applied for 6 months ago? Yeah, let's talk about that. No, like that's a different conversation. So if they give you a valid explanation, then I say use your discretion. I'm guessing that this question is asked because the role's not filled. That's an easy out. If the role is filled, you could say, hey, sorry things didn't work out, but thank you for your time. We've already filled this position. But if it's been like a day, if it's even been 2 days, sometimes life happens for us. And if they offer an explanation, maybe they don't want to get into too much detail because it may point to like some kind of medical issue or something else. But if they give you like a valid reason, I say go ahead and move forward. You can kind of tell when people are BSing you and when they thought they were going to get that offer and they didn't, and then they jump back instead of telling you, hey, I'm in the process for a few other roles. So, just keep that in mind, or my schedule changed and, I need to reschedule this, and they don't give you advance warning. Sometimes we don't have advance warning. But if it becomes habitual, that's when I say cut it. Because I've had a lot of folks I have had folks that have done that to me. It's not, the norm, but people will be like, oh, I need to reschedule. And it's like 5 minutes before we're supposed to talk, or a minute before we're supposed to talk, or 5 minutes after. And they're like, oh yeah, my dog ate my homework. Can we do this on XYZ day? And then they never show up again. So after like 2 times, no, I'm done with you. Let's move on.
Yeah, giving people the benefit of the doubt, kind of assuming the best, but then also basing it off of the scenario.
Yeah.